So I came up with a list of 10 things that I dislike about my Toyota MR2, and by all means, this was not an easy list to make. Roll the cinematic.
For the record, I'm not trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link, no time to waste. For the record, for the record.
So like I just said, this list was very hard to make because I really don't have too much that I dislike about the MR2. However, there are some things that every MR2 owner hates, and hopefully I'll be establishing all of them, or at least the problems that I don't like, or at least the things that I really dislike about my MR2. So we're gonna start off with number 1. This car from factory comes out very close to the ground. Where you put your feet is very close to the actual ground that your car is on. So a lot of comments that I get from passengers that come into my car is, wow, this car is so low. And yeah, that's because pretty much when you're getting in, your feet are this far off the actual ground itself. And I'm not gonna lie, it is a little bit of a struggle getting in, especially when you're around 6 foot. So you can see it's quite a bit of a struggle getting into this car, but you know, it's something that you deal with. Like, it probably wouldn't be too bad if you're not that tall, but you know, it is what it is. And that moves us on to problem number 2. So we'll just hop in again. And so if you're on the passenger side of this car, I will admit I fit perfectly. I'm around 6'2" and I fit, you know, without an issue at all. So as a passenger, it's not too bad. But as a driver, if you're a tall person, you're still kind of cramped. You don't have too much room. You still got, you know, quite a bit of headroom if you're sitting upright. Basically, problem number 2 is that there is not much room for the driver. You know, I got my meat sticks over here, and you know, I've got a decent amount of room, but my knee kind of sticks up like that. I wouldn't suggest buying this car if you're over like 6'2" or something like that, because it would be a very big struggle for you to drive this car. All right, so on to number 3. And like I said, this list was pretty goddamn hard to make. However, there are some very annoying inconveniences, just like this center console behind me. So that's the third problem, the center console location. Now, you might think, oh yeah, they didn't have much space to put anything in. Well, that is true, but this center console is a bitch to get to. Like, you can see that I'm already at a pretty turned position, but in order to get to the console, especially with these bucket seats that really hold you in, you gotta turn around, open that up and really reach in the back, because this console thing goes very far back. You gotta reach for like, I don't know, I've got a spare mirror in here. I don't know, some chewy, but it's in such an annoying spot. And if you want to go to the top bit of it, I'm just going to show you the rotation, but if I go all the way around and break my neck, I gotta reach for this thing, the top bit. And in order to get anything in there, I barely can reach in there. I have to like twist my whole body just to get my touch-up paint, some spare bolts or whatever I've got in there. So really got to commit if you want to get anything in that top part of the center console. I'll just show the action again, just from over here. That's it. So the only way that I ever get things out of that top part of the center console is by leaning over without being in the car, just like this, reaching my hand through, picking it up, and then getting whatever I need when I'm outside the car. It's that much of a bitch. So my next problem number 4 is lack of power steering in this car. Now, I've already made a whole video explaining my thoughts on the power steering. It's not too bad, it's just a little inconvenient at times, like when you're trying to park, but it's nothing major and definitely isn't a point where you wouldn't buy the car. So yeah, I'll leave that video somewhere up there. Go check that out and you can watch that video on power steering. Sorry, the lack of power steering. Nope. So having the Bathurst edition of the MR2s, for those who don't know, in America, that's pretty much the race version, the race spec version of the MR2. That doesn't come with power steering. It also doesn't come with good speakers. Now these speakers are horrible. No bass. Like, there's a little bit of clarity, but they're overall trash. Now, I even have a aftermarket Sony head unit, which does amplify the music a little bit, I've heard. So it still doesn't do a good job of making these speakers sound good. Now, there's one here, one there, and there is one down there. So the two ones in the rear actually aren't the stock ones. So the person who previously owned the car obviously put some better speakers in it, but it didn't actually make a difference at all. Well, if it did, then the stock speakers that came in the car originally must have been freaking horrible. Oh, well, look at that. We can't even jam to my favorite, Glamorous by Fergie. Yes, that's right, the MR2 does actually have a boot. Now, many people are surprised at the fact that a mid-engine car can actually come with a back boot or trunk, whatever you want to call it. But not gonna lie, it is pretty useless. Like, as you can see, there isn't much space. There's actually quite a bit of space for the engine being in the back, but there isn't for like a regular car. I usually just store bags in here. You could fit probably an exhaust. Don't know why you would want to have one of those in your boots. You know, it's not too bad. It does do the job, and it isn't a daily car, so it's a sports car. So that's not what you can expect, but it is a little bit of a problem because you can't really store, you know, your junk anywhere else. You've got the frunk, which isn't really a frunk, it just really holds the spare tire and all that. I'll quickly show you. And there you go. That's what's in the front bit of the MR2. Just a spare tire, you can access the battery, brake fluid, clutch fluid, fuse. There you go. And now, number 7. So the MR2 has some cheap interior to save costs back when it was being manufactured from 1990 to whatever it was, 1999. Please correct me in the comments. I'm gonna start off with this problem. It really pisses me off. Now, if we come over here, you can see that this fucking panel over here, right here, where the seatbelt is, this panel right where the seatbelt is, does not stay in. And I've tried everything. I've taken it off, put it back on, you know, try to move it, but this thing just does not stay in. It just keeps popping out like that. And it's pissing me off. Fuck. Oh my fucking god, I think I broke it. So obviously, to save costs on developing a mid-engine sports car, Toyota went ahead and chose to put some crappy material, some questionable plastic interior that clicks together and that's not held in by any screws at all in the MR2. You know, obviously it's like most cars, you can just pop this thing off, but it's just annoying because it does come off pretty easily like that. It makes it easy to work on, yeah, sure. Oh my god, go back on, please. You know, with such an amazing driver's car, what really can you expect? It's not a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, so, well, some people think it's a Ferrari. Problem number 8. That's going to be your passenger's head when you crash the car. So when you eventually snap oversteer into a corner and you have a passenger in your car, this soft, shiny material is what your passenger's going to hit when you crash the car. Now, of course, people don't really run airbags in their race cars. It's just more of a parental kind of problem because they don't like me driving this car because it doesn't have an airbag for the passenger. However, it does have one here because the driver is the only one who matters in a collision. But that's problem number 8. So this car is older than me, 21 years old. It's the 1997 SW20 MR2. And because it's so old, and because they're so rare, it actually makes it very difficult to find parts for. Now this plastic trim right here is a very hard part to find if you don't want to go to Toyota and fork out like $400 or some stupid amount for 2 sides. So I had to spend a good month actually looking for these plastic trim bits. I got them for $100 each, which is not too bad, but it's still expensive and it's annoying that I can't just go to Toyota and buy a cheap little plastic part for my MR2. So like I said, it's very hard to find parts for this car because it's extremely old. There are parts that I really want for my MR2, like these taillights. And from far away you can't really see, but up close they're kind of destroyed. It's kind of my own fault, but I need to get a new pair, and it has taken me a good month to find some kooky taillights because they're discontinued from Toyota. They don't make them anymore. So that makes them expensive, hard to find, and just annoying to purchase because of hassle, if that counts as a third one. So problem number 10. the engine is in the back of the car. And if you didn't know that already, I don't know where you've been, but we have been looking at a Toyota MR2. So it's a mid-engine sports car, and the problem with this is that it's hard to work on. So you've got two big pillars over there and there on each side of the car, and it's hard to get over and reach down into things like, you know, the clutch slave cylinder, for example, which is what I had to replace recently. It's just a little bit of annoyance trying to work on this car. It's not that big of a hassle, but it is still a little bit of a problem. And not knowing what you're doing half the time because you're not a certified mechanic just makes it that little bit extra annoying. So there you go. That is 10 problems that I have with my Toyota MR2. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, it is very hard to make these kind of videos on problems with your car because obviously you buy the car for a reason. You buy the car knowing the problems and knowing the issues you're gonna face. You're obviously gonna find some new ones, but at the end of the day, it is your car and I do love it. And obviously I will be making a video on 10 things that I love about my MR2. Nearly at 10,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. See you in the next one. Peace.